giving you a voice,
making it loud our own way.
Welcome to the fun.
First Updates Now FRC is produced in partnership with the Blue Alliance. Keep up to date on all live and archived First Robotics events and team stats at thebluealliance.com. And by viewers like you. We need your help to keep fun loud, live, and independent. Help us by visiting our Patreon to pledge your support at patreon.com/First Updates Now. You can also support Fun live on Twitch for a few bucks a month or by linking your Prime account for free and clicking subscribe.
If you knock me down, I'ma get on up. Top speed when you hit the ground. Just get on up when you get knocked down. Getting the jump right in, no matter what. If you knock me down, I'ma get on up. Get on up. Get on up. Hey, from the sound.
All right, what a weekend. 160 teams, 4 divisions, 5 state finals matches before a state champion was finally crowned. When all the dust from the sandstorm settled, we had an amazing Michigan State Championship weekend. We can't wait to break down all the action tonight. Reporting for First Updates Now, I'm Nick.
I'm Freddie.
I'm Nick Jr.
And I'm Sky.
All right, we're going to jump right into our divisions. And the first division we're going to recap this week is the DT Energy division. Nick, what do you have for us?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure all of us were surprised when divisions came out finally Wednesday morning after our show. And just a quick notice that 5 out of the 6 Michigan teams that were in the World Finals last year, so Rush, Strikeforce, Chickens, Comets, 4130 the Blue Devils, and I'm missing one other, but we're all in the same division at states this year in DTE, so that was pretty interesting. After 80 qualification matches, the hot team ranked out of Milford ranked number 1 with an undefeated score, with an undefeated record, taking out 27, 27-67, and 33-57 all in qualifications. 910 was ranked 2nd, and they also had the highest OPR in the division with 39.15. They were also they were the number 1 alliance, and the number 2 alliance, which was our winners for DTE, was captained by 2767 Strikeforce, and their first pick was Team 548 Robostangs, and third pick was Team 7769 OS Crew. In the finals, we had our number 8 alliance, who upset the number 1 in quarters, consisting of Team 2054 the Tech Vikes, Team 4004 Mars Rovers, and Team 3770 Blitzkrieg. I think that none of us really saw the 8 seed taking down the 1. So for 2054, nice job fabricating that great alliance on the 8 seed. Defense definitely played a huge role in this division, and going into each match, I truly believe that it was up for grabs. I think that, we had 42 rockets that were completed in quals with 1 double rocket match in DTE, and we had 28 unicorn matches. So definitely had some high RP rankings. So I think that's pretty much it for DTE, unless somebody else has anything.
Well, so do you want to talk about maybe why the 8 seed was able to kind of beat the number 1 seed in the quarters? Because it was pretty massive
for sure. So what happened was Hop ranked 1 and they took Fully Freeze, and then Strikeforce ranked 2 and took Robostangs, and then the Fighting Pie ranked 3rd and took Thunder Chickens. So then that left the Riveters in 4th, who picked Hot, which declined them, and then picked 4130, and then had the Comets picked and then got declined, who picked I can't remember who they picked, but then the Tech Vikes also declined, and were stuck in the 8th seed, and then Wobot was not picked but stayed in the 7th seed. So they pretty much scorched 5 through 8, which forced Rush to pick 4130, and then Comets to pick. Let me grab the team name here. Forced to pick 2474. I'm sorry, 5676. The Heroes, and then 2474 Excel. So it made an interesting match to separate the Rush, Comets, and Tech Vikes all separated. So when Tech Vikes got to the 8, and they had Mars Rovers and Blitzkrieg, which I was surprised was still around, to be honest with you, fabricate that number 8 alliance, come out completely swinging. So we saw some great defense played by 3770, who played some great defense on Foley and on Hot, who stopped Foley from climbing in Finals 3, actually, which forced Hot to climb. And I don't know, it was very interesting that since Rivers ranked 4th, they were able to separate 3 of those huge teams that really made it file out. Rush, my team in Rush ended up losing to the 4 seed in quarters. Comets ended up losing to Fighting Pie and Chicken. So it made for a really interesting elimination rounds. So Freddie, if you want to go ahead and talk about Dow.
Yes, I will talk about Dow. So Dow was a really exciting division, just like all of our MSC divisions. To be honest, they didn't really leave much up to chance, as 5460 Strike Zone from Lapeer ranked 1st and picked 3538 Robo Jackets from Auburn Hills. Not really much surprise there. I think if you asked a lot of people going in, that's who they had coming out of that alliance selection. And then they picked up 314, the Megatron Oracles, on the back end from Flint. In the finals, they went up against the 3rd alliance of 3620 Average Joes from St. Joseph, 1023 Bedford Express from Temperance, and 5509 Like a Boss from Midland. In our finals, 314 played very, very passive defense, in which they basically just sat in front of the one rocket and tried to stop the scoring of the opposing alliance. And we'll actually get into more on that later regarding how that strategy played out on the storied Fimstein. 5509 also tried to play defense on 5460, but Mechanism Wheels proved it tough, leaving one side of the field wide open for 3538 to work their magic. And so our number 1 alliance of 5460, 3538, and 314 won our Dow field in 2 matches going to Fimstein. And that is all I've got for Dow.
Yeah, so really quick, I'm going to pop in for Dow. In my opinion, I was really surprised that Trucktown Thunder did not get taken as a D-bot. That's just my opinion. We saw them at Gull Lake, and I was at Troy and watched them, and I thought they've played great defense all year, so I was really surprised to see them not get picked up in the elimination rounds. Just my 2 cents. I
know we were practicing at Rush last weekend with 3538 was there, 67, 27 were both there, and I know Trucktown was also there earlier in the day as well. And yeah, I really thought that they kind of flew under the radar. I thought maybe they'd be able to be a good 3rd bot late pick. So I kind of, when I saw them continuing to fall, I thought maybe they were going to end up on that number 1 alliance. So I was a little surprised to see 314 picked over Trucktown. So, all right, I am going to move on to the Consumers Energy division. Consumers Energy, it shaped out generally, I think, how a lot of people maybe expected. I think kind of going throughout qualification matches, it kind of became pretty clear that there were kind of like 3 teams in the top group who were probably going to, vie to be on that winning alliance between 50-50 Cowtown Robotics, 33 the Killer Bees, and 1684 the Chimeras. In the end, 50-50 would be the one to seed number 1, and they would go on to pick 33 the Killer Bees. And they would pick up 4956 the Robo Sharks from Whitehall for their 3rd robot. And I know, obviously being on the Bees, we were pretty surprised that they fell all the way down to us. They were a really great offensive robot. They had a lot of success at Kentwood a couple weeks ago, and I know a lot of teams were surprised they fell that far in that alliance selection 2 weeks ago. So we were again surprised to see them as low as they were, and we were pretty happy to get them on the offensive side because they were able to do so much scoring with cargos at least. But the Alliance 2, 3414, the Hackbots, would then be the number 2 captain, and they would pick 1684, the Chimeras. And they would pick up 1188, the Ravens from Royal Oak, as their 3rd robot. And I will say, it ended up being the number 1, taking it all the way, but there was definitely a lot of potential for the number 2 Alliance. Those finals matches were really close. The finals 2 match, 33's climb ended up not counting. Their foot was touching the ground at the end, so they ended up losing 92-90 instead of winning 99-92. So that was a really close match. And then in finals 3, it would have been an 85-85 tie if the number 2 alliance had gotten a foul during the match. So because of that, the number 1 alliance ended up winning 88-85 to take the overall division win. But really, overall, the finals matches were really close. I will say that Chimera's autonomous was probably the best. I think probably the best in the entire state at this weekend. They had a very consistent 2-hatch side cargo ship auto that they hit, I believe, every single time they played in the eliminations this weekend. So hats off to them. In the overall alliance, just doing a really great job. I will say the number 1 alliance in the quarterfinals, they scored 122 unpenalized score in their first quarterfinal match. They only had 5 spots left to score anything by the end of the match. And all the robots went back pretty early to climb. So I think that alliance had a lot of potential to maybe max out the field. They ran into some problems later, and like Freddie alluded to earlier, we'll kind of talk about the Fimstein matches a little bit later. But overall, Consumers, I think, proved to be stronger than a lot of people anticipated. I think a lot of people thought it was maybe the weakest division, and I think it definitely proved that wrong. So, Sky, what do you have for the Ford division?
Just one quick comment on Consumers there.
Sure.
I was kind of surprised by the whole Rocket RP situation in Consumers versus the other divisions. It was kind of limited.
Yeah, I think we saw a lot of defense in the qualifications. But yeah, I think there was a lot. I think some of the other divisions did maybe have a higher top end as far as that top group of teams who could really carry an alliance to a division win. But I think the middle area was a lot stronger maybe in Consumers, which is why it ended up being stronger than a lot of people thought. But that and it also caused a lot more defensive play maybe. So hard to tell for sure.
All right, so I'll jump on to Ford here, and there wasn't any shortage of firepower at the top end. We see 1918 NC Gears, and they're definitely were the favorite kind of going into this division. We had them ranked number 1 in our top 10 last week, and they did not disappoint for quite a bit of the tournament. However, they were having some issues with back to that defense. So they finished ranked number 1. They were the only team that managed to get a ranking score above 3.0. And if anything goes to prove kind of how strong Gears can be, that was their qual record on the weekend. Despite going 8-4, they still ranked number 1. And I think we actually see that across some of the other divisions with rankings, with the records. But the next highest ranked was 3667, and they had a record of 10-1-1. And while we're still talking about wins losses here, the third ranked team of 4362 Gems managed to get that third ranked spot with a record of 7-4-1. After the allotted 80 matches, these 3 teams would go on to form their own alliances. But these 3, only the third seeded alliance of Gems from Brighton, they would pick up 3604 the Goon Squad from Brownstown and an absolute steal of 862 Lightning from Canton. And then they would make it into the finals. Up in the finals, there was also the 5th seed coming in from the other side of the bracket, and that was comprised with all teams from the mid-3000s, so that's not confusing at all for an MC. We had 3641 the Flying Toasters, 3542 Speed, and 3536 the Electro Eagles. The first 2 finals matches were really tight, with the first match going to the 5th seeded alliance, 90-85. The second match going to the 3rd alliance, 96-90. And the showdown was in finals 3. The 3rd alliance faced some heavy defense in their end of the field, but they were able to fight through the congestion and get a lot of hatch panels placed early on. This provided plenty of options in scoring locations while under defense. The congestion may have made the 3rd seeded alliance's end of the field difficult to maneuver, but they were able to kind of flip that strategy on the 5th alliance, who's playing all that defense, by kind of starving them of that climb. The 3rd alliance, in the end, came out victorious in finals 3. All right, so now we've managed to wrap up our 4 divisions. Do we have any comments on Ford or any of the other divisions?
Yeah, well, I think I would say maybe Ford was maybe that ended up being the most surprising division. I mean, obviously
Absolutely.
DTE obviously had a big surprise with the number one falling. But I think that was mostly, because Hot, I think, fell off the climber on the first match, and then on the third one, I think their arm broke. So
Yeah.
a lot of just breaking there. But I think Ford had a
luck.
lot of just strategic interest to it, a lot of potential strong alliances, and then with that number one seed falling, I think that surprised a lot of people. And then even more so, I think, maybe a lot of people expected maybe the 5 seed to actually end up beating the 3 seed in the finals.
Yeah.
And then that didn't happen either.
And one thing I want to comment on, and you'll see this in the division playoff stuff, is I'm still kind of on the fence whether the 3rd seed alliance there with Gems had no strategy and they were just hanging on by the seat of their pants, or they had like next level strategy with those scoring locations with defense. I'm not sure yet. It's just they kept on managing to push through every single time, so it was just kind of fun to watch.
Yeah. So moving on to the division playoffs then. So we have our 4 division winners. So it's time to crown a state champion. This would first start off with semifinals between Consumers versus Ford. So that was the 50-50 Cowtown and 33 Killer Bees Alliance versus that Ford Alliance of Gems and Goon Squad. The first semifinal match actually, the first semifinal match saw a Consumers win, but there was massive lag on all 6 robots. Every team will tell you that they looked incredibly terrible. So they definitely replay that. Watching that match, I was like, there's no way something's not wrong. There's no way. So we played it again. And that time we ended up with an exact tie. And because of 33 committing a couple fouls for manipulating 2 balls at a time, that caused the score to not only be tied, but then to give the tiebreaker and the win to the Ford Alliance on that match 1. Match 2, Consumers would come back and take the solid win, but in the third semifinal match, Ford would end up being victorious. They kind of played around the defense better that the Consumers Alliance was playing against them, and I think the Consumers Alliance just didn't really quite score as much as they normally did, and that kind of did them in. So Gems and Goon Squad would end up moving on to the finals where they would play the winner of DTE versus Dow. So Sky, what happened in those 2 matches?
So 3 matches.
3 matches, right?
But this isn't nearly as complex as perhaps Nick was all wrapped up in. This one just came down to being outplayed. Strike Zone, they had some mechanical issues in that first match, which allowed the DTE Alliance to kind of press ahead and put a win up on the board. But that's about where DTE's luck kind of ran out. As much as I would have loved to go head to head with someone else there, but after that, it was really all the Dow Alliance for the next 2 matches. So they managed, the DTE Alliance had some issues with dropping game pieces. Strike Force dropped some pieces, double scoring game pieces. Just couldn't keep up with the other alliances. It's just as simple as that. So Dow came out victorious in that one, and Nick and Freddie are going to go through that rigmarole.
Yeah. How do we start? This is the real question. I think no one ever expected that we would see 5 finals matches to separate these 2 alliances of Ford and Dow. I can't even describe. I truly believe this. I know I was saying this during the matches, but I really think that both of these alliances are just that equal. With Strike Zone and RoboJack scoring, and Goon Squad playing great cargo on the car. I mean, they're filling the cargo ship in 30 seconds, no problem. And the undeniable hatch panel placement of the Gems. I personally, every time I would sit with my other coach, and we were watching right in front of Hot, and we'd say it every time. Oh my gosh, they tied again, and then it came out, and then they tied, and then Red took one, and then Blue took one, and then they tied again, and I can't even. I mean, it took almost an hour and a half to finish those 2. So. I mean, I don't have a whole lot more. I know we're a little bit short on time, so we kind of got to speed up here. But Freddie, if you have anything else to add.
I loved every single one of these matches. And I can't even tell you for a second how hyped I was to see that we were going to a 5th match. Because these 2 alliances were, quite frankly, the most evenly matched. It was the most evenly matched finals I've personally ever seen. at any event for that matter. So I was just so excited to see it go 5 matches because it didn't leave anything to chance. I believe that the alliance that won the Ford Alliance was truly the best alliance at the event, and no one else could take them down. I personally think that.
Yeah, I think they just had really great chemistry, and they just found a way to work really well together. So hats off to them. They are state champions for 2019. We're gonna quick cover our award winners really quickly. So chairman's the winners for the event. Michigan State gives out 5 state champion chairman's award winners every year. So these went to 66 Grizzly Robotics from Ypsilanti, 226 the Hammerheads from Troy, 503 Frog Force from Novi, 1718 the Fighting Pie from Armada, and 4776 Scottsbots from Howell. The Engineering Inspiration Award, we give out one of these at Michigan State Championship, went to 3618 the Petoskey Paladins from Petoskey. And our 2 rookie All-Stars went to 7656 the MC Hammers from Michigan Center, and 7598 the SCA Constellations. Yep. All right. Sorry, I thought I typed it wrong. And just a quick shout out to our Woody Flowers Finalist Award winner. Of course, we only give out 1 per district. This went to Joe Horth from 280 TNT this year. He's an awesome guy, really deserving. 21 years he's been mentoring. So a huge hats off to him on all of his great success over the years. We're going to do a quick top 10. Last week, we kind of made our own top 10 as hosts. So we wanted to revisit that and kind of update what we think is the current top 10 now coming out of MSC. So everybody else, why don't you give your quick thoughts on what we turned out with?
Yeah, so looking at this list here, things have shuffled a lot. A lot of teams really managed to turn it on and really put some power out there. As we keep saying about the gems, I mean, right, state champions and stuff, but holy smokes, they have been working overtime. So I'm really impressed with them, and I look forward to seeing what they're going to be doing later on.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Scott on that one. From just to see like the progression from Gem's first district where they're at now is completely ridiculous. Their gameplay has just increased so much, and I'm going to give a shout out here. We put Chimeras on this list, even though they got knocked out in the division. But like Nick said, I'm pretty sure that we saw they were probably the best autonomous robot that we saw here at MSC this weekend, and absolutely just nailing stuff from going to Kettering 1 to getting there, to Marysville to sort of getting there, to Traverse City, okay, they're starting to place them now, to states where they're nailing it every single time. And I just think that they did a great job of getting their stuff together, and I cannot wait to see how divisions shake out at Worlds with these Michigan teams.
Yeah, I think it's a great top 10. If you look at the bottom, we had to actually put some honorable mentions because I think those were all worthy teams of being in that top 10. And personally, I don't think a top 10 was enough. If we had the time, I think we could put together a top 25. Props.
Easily.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think to expand, like when we were talking about it for the last 2 hours before the show started, just trying to figure out who is in the top 10. I mean, the top 5, we definitely debated about some, but that shook out a little bit easier than the numbers 6 through 10. I think we definitely went back and forth on a lot as far as, how high should 1918 and 3707 be? Because I think obviously they both do have a lot of potential. They're both really good robots, but, they lost in the semifinals. So, where does that put them versus, Chimeras, right? They made the finals. They still didn't make the full, Fimstein. So how high are they? How high does Gunstwad go? They won Michigan State, right? So that's a big deal. But, we still think there's some other robots that are maybe better overall. So it was definitely tough to make. We could probably go for 3 hours about who's in the top, who's in the top 25.
Absolutely.
So, sure.
Let us know who you thought we missed, maybe who was not an honorable mention that we should have had as an honorable mention, who should have been in the top 10 from the honorable mentions. Let us know in the chat. But that is going to wrap us up for the night. Thanks to everyone who has watched, sent us questions and comments, and support the show throughout the entire 2019 season. All of us have had a blast bringing you all sorts of information about First in Michigan this year. And we can't wait to see how Michigan teams do in Detroit at the World Championship next week. If you guys want more First Robotics in your life and like what we all do, all we ask is that you let others know about this show and that this is the place to go for more FRC in your life. If you got a few bucks to share, we appreciate it. But if not, we totally understand, and we're delighted to have you on board. Be sure to click that little green follow button on the top right of the page and the purple subscribe button to see if you may even have a Twitch Prime sub available. On behalf of myself, Freddie, Nick, and Sky, and our producer, Tyler, I would like to thank all of you for tuning in and thank all of our moderators in chat. Our next show coming up tonight will be the recap of Ontario and Indiana's District State Championship events. All right, have a good night, everybody.
We need your help to keep fun loud, live, and independent. Help us by visiting our Patreon to pledge your support at patreon.com/first updates now. You can also support Fun live on Twitch for a few bucks a month or by linking your Prime account for free and clicking subscribe. Thank you to all of our co-executive producers keeping Fun loud, live, and independent.